In RT4 lesson 3, we're going to talk about when to use the law of sines and when to use the law of cosines. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to determine which law you should use and when. All right, so we're going to use this flow chart to help us figure out what we need to do and when. The first thing you are going to always ask yourself is it a right triangle? If it is, you're going to use the Pythagorean theorem or SOHCAHTOA. So if you have a right triangle, it's either Pythagorean formula or SOHCAHTOA. If you determine it is not a right triangle, the next thing you're going to ask yourself is, does it have angle, side, angle, 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 side, or side, side, angle? If it does, you're going to use the law of sines. Okay? If it does not have one of those, the next thing you're going to look at is, does it have side, 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 or side, angle, side? If it does, then in that case, you're going to use the law of cosines. On this next slide, we have a little bit of a sort here, and you're going to take those triangles at the bottom and you are going to sort them. Are they right triangle? Should you use the law of sines or should you use the law of cosines? And if you use the scissor tool and click on the picture, you'll actually be able to drag them to where they belong. So I want you to go ahead and give this a try. Use your flow chart to help you. So pause the video. When you're done, come back to check your answers. All right, so here is how your sort should have ended. On the left, both of those triangles in the right triangle column, they are right triangles. So you're going to use Pythagorean theorem or SOHCAHTOA to solve those. As we look at the ones in the middle, for law of sines, remember, if it's angle, side, angle, 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 side, or side, side, angle. So as we look on that top one, I can see that we have angle, angle, side. On the middle one, we have angle, angle, side again. And on the last one, we have side, side, angle. That is why those three require the use of the law of sines. And for the final three, for law of cosines, it's either side, 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 or side, angle, side. So as we look at our examples here, on the first one, I see side, angle, side. On the next one, I see side, side, side. And on the final one, I see side, angle, side. That is why these three triangles fall under the use of the law of cosines. All right, let's look at some examples. So our first example says to find x. And always, if you go back to that flow chart, the first question you need to ask yourself is it a right triangle? If it is, we're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent, SOHCAHTOA. As we look at this triangle, it is indeed a right triangle. So we can apply and we can use SOHCAHTOA to find x. I can see here I have my angle. I want to find the opposite, and I'm given the adjacent. So opposite, adjacent is using tangent. Tangent of our angle, so tangent of 38 equals the opposite, which we don't know, which is x, over the adjacent, which is 30. We need to solve for x, so we're going to multiply both sides by 30. The 30s cancel, and I have 30 times tangent of 38 equals x, and I'm going to put this into my calculator. 30 times tangent of 38, I get x to equal 23.4 when I round to the nearest tenth centimeters. Here's example number 2. It asks me to find y. As I look at my triangle, I'm going to ask myself, is it a right triangle? And as I look at this, it's not a right triangle. There's no right angles given. I can see that I am given a side, an angle, and a side. So if you go back up to your flow chart, you're looking for side, angle, side. So we are going to use the law of cosines. Let's start by writing out the law of cosines. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times the cosine of angle C. As I look here, we have to remember that since we are looking for y that is opposite the angle 78 degrees, that angle has to be C. That angle has to be C, meaning y is our side length C. So now we can substitute y squared equals, let's remember that our two sides that were given, the 42 and the 32, one is A, one is B, doesn't matter which, so I'm going to say 42 squared plus 32 squared minus 2 times A, which is 42, times B, which is 32, times the cosine of C, which we said was 78. Since we're looking for that y squared, we can go ahead and put our information into our calculator. So 42 squared plus 32 squared is 2,788 minus, then we're going to do 2 times 42 times 32 times the cosine of 78. So we're going to be subtracting 558.9 to get y squared. And actually, we're going to want to make sure that that's exact. So let's leave it as 8666 and so on. And that's going to give us y squared. I'm going to do 2,788 minus that answer of 558.86666249 to get y squared equals 2,229.133 and so on. So we're going to square root both sides. Y equals, in my calculator, I'm going to make sure I keep that exact answer. So I'm going to put the square root and then I'm going to hit second answer to input that same number to get the most precise answer. So 47.2 when you round that to the nearest 10th centimeters. In example 3, we are asked to find W, which is a side length. It is not a right triangle, so I'm going to look and I'm going to see that I have angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. Since I have angle, angle, side, that clues me in that I need to use the law of sines. As I'm looking at my triangle, I am going to use 76, the sine of 76 over 15. In order to find W, though, I need to know this angle, and we will use side W. We can do that by adding 76 plus 24 to get 100. And then 180 minus 100 will give us that angle measure. So that angle is 80 degrees. So now we can go ahead and set up the law of sines. So we have the sine of 76 degrees over 15 equals the sine of 80 degrees over our missing W. Now we're just going to cross multiply to solve. So W times sine of 76 equals 15 times the sine of 80. In my calculator, I'm going to do 15 times sine of 80. And I'm going to make sure that I do not round it yet, because I want to make sure that I don't have an internal rounding error. We want to get the most exact answer. So I'm going to divide both sides by sine of 76. In my calculator, I'm going to leave that answer in there, and I'm going to hit divide, and I'm going to type in sine of 76. That will give me the most precise answer, 15.2, when I round, you want to make sure you always wait to round till the very end. And if you're having a challenging time with that rounding piece, make sure you're asking for help. Make sure you're asking me to show you specifically, but remember to wait to round till the very end. All right, let's take a look at example number 4. Example number 4 says to find the measure of angle T, but actually I want you to find X, and we're going to call this side X. As I look at this, I notice that first I don't have a right triangle. I do see that I have a side, an included angle, and the other side. So we have side, angle, side, which I remember, or I look back in my notes, and I see that we need to use the law of cosines. As always, we write out our law. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times the cosine of c. As I look at this, I need to identify what my a, my b, my c are. And I notice that I have my angle here. Across from it, I am trying to find that side length. So that means that our x is our c, and our angle is angle C. 21 and 38.45, either one can be A, either one can be B. And we're going to substitute what we know. So x squared equals 21 squared plus 38.45 squared minus 2 times 21 times 38.45 times the cosine of our angle, which was 72, because that angle is across from the side we're trying to find. That's why 72 is our angle. We can go ahead and put into our calculator. So we have x squared equals, we're going to do 21 squared plus 38.45 squared. So this part here gives us 1,919.4025. Do not round early. Then we're going to look and we're going to subtract. So we're going to find what this multiplied together is. 2 times 21 times 38.45 times the cosine of 72. We get 499.0315442. I'm going to leave this in my calculator. I'm going to type in 1,919.4025 minus my previous answer, or 499.0315442. And I get x squared to equal 1,420.370956. And I'm not going to round. I'm going to leave that number in my calculator to make sure that when I square root both sides and I input that number, second square root, second answer, that I am able to round at the very, very end. So 37.7 centimeters. Again, if you're having a challenging time with rounding, you're not getting quite the right answer, please be asking for help on that.